Hello, my friends. Good evening. How are you? Welcome to another edition of Wednesday Night Live with me, Mike Avery, here in my home studio, my home office. Cliff, good evening, buddy. How are you? Appreciate you being along with us, Cliff. Cliff, a regular viewer of both Wednesday Night Live and Behind the Mic Wednesday mornings from the Outdoor Magazine radio studio. And I do appreciate that. What a beautiful day it was. Luke Pulaski of the Outdoor Conquest, how are you? Luke is a hardcore, avid outdoorsman, hunter, and angler, and he does a wonderful job on his video, his online video on the Outdoor Conquest. Look him up. Brian, good evening. How are you? Have you been out hunting yet? We've been out to the lease property a couple of times. I was out there Sunday with my grandson Trent putting up an old man base camp elevated blind. And then I was out there yesterday with my son James. We put up a couple of old man ladder stands over some food plots. I think we're in pretty good shape now. And now that the weather has cooled off, I can get excited about hunting. I wasn't when it was in the low 80s. I just was not interested. I'd rather go play golf, and that's what I did. Now I'm ready to go hunt. Otto, good evening. How are you? Hey, Linda. How's life? What are you doing now? Did you put the golf clubs away? Are you concentrating in just on fishing now? Hello, Jim. How are things in your world this evening? Craig Plowman. Craig. Craig stopped by the radio studio this morning, parking lot. He works near there. And he said, I got a couple of hats for you. One was a very, very nice Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation baseball style hat. And the other one's this. Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation, there we go. Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation Blaze Orange knit cap for the wintertime. And I'm also drinking out of a Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation mug. Craig, I appreciate it. Thank you. Very nice. But I'm going to take it off because it's pretty warm. It's too warm to be wearing right now. But thank you. I told you I would wear it. Brian says, I've had your theme song stuck in my head all day. Don't you hate that, Brian? What do they call that? An earworm? I'm glad it's my theme song. Thank you for that. And thank you for listening. Bill Lincoln, good evening. I went out last weekend, really warm, didn't see much but better in the woods than at work. Amen to that, brother. I did get one picture that stands out from Mike Mashar. Mike just happens to be a conservation officer, Sergeant Mike Mashar, of a beautiful buck that he took opening weekend. And he said he was hunting a water hole. He said, when it's hot like that, you've got to concentrate on the water sources. And that's what he did. He shot a beautiful buck. I posted on the Facebook page. Well, thank you, Craig. I appreciate that. Michelle, how are you this evening? Michelle is a saint because it is her job to take care of her husband, Craig. And that is not an easy job. Craig, going good today, seeing some nice bucks. We just had a nice one come through our east line over by the state land, a real nice buck. Tommy, good evening. How are you? Mike Sills, Michigan Outdoorsman. Any luck deer hunting? I have not been out yet, Mike. I have been out setting up blinds. I know we're late to the game, okay? I know these should have been done a long time ago. But I just got a shipment from Bob Ransom of Old Man Stands like Thursday of last week. And by the weekend, we had things set up, so we didn't waste any time. And now, and I didn't feel so bad about it because it was so warm. I didn't feel so bad about not being in the woods hunting. Now that it's cooled off, I think my grandson Trent and I are probably going to hunt Friday and Saturday nights. Brandon, Lake St. Clair perch are hot along the channel and the dumping grounds. Thank you for Brandon. Brandon, for that, I appreciate it. Don, good evening. How are you? Linda, clubs are still in the truck. Didn't come out until the skis go in the truck. That's not a bad philosophy because there's some beautiful golf in the fall if you get the right day. I did learn this. If I'm going to be golfing late in the season, once the leaves are dropping or after they've dropped, just before the course is closed, I'm going to take a portable leaf blower with me. James and I were out golfing a course near here last year. We couldn't find our balls. Even if they were in the fairway, you couldn't find them. We had a group come up behind us, and he pulled out his portable leaf blower. And I'm thinking, that's pretty slick. I'm going to do that. Bernie, good evening. How are you? Michelle says she is a saint. Ed, good evening, buddy. Nice to have you along with us. I'm doing very well, Tommy. Thank you. Hey, Jay. Congrats on your Ontario Bear. Very nice. Jim, good evening. How are you? Jim, I got to show you something. I'm going to hit my microphone, so I apologize for that. Do these look familiar, Jim? These are the baits that Dixie Dave won at 2 Wednesday Night Lives ago, and he gave them to me. Wanted to show them off. Hello, Scott. How are you? Monkey's uncle. Couple of nice bucks hanging around your mom's house. Who is Monkey's uncle, and how do you know where my mom lives? Ross, good evening, buddy. How you feeling? John Callis and Jay Sporting Goods. Thank you, buddy. Mike Sherman, good evening. Joe, how are you? Hello, Brent. Brent, reach into your pocket right now. Reach into your pocket. Are you able to pull out a knife very similar to this? Where's the focus? I won't focus on it. There we go. I was thinking earlier that because those knives are custom made, handmade, they take a while to produce and ship, that if you're thinking about one of my signature knives, especially, but I guess any Rapid River knife in general for a Christmas gift, now is the time to order it. Now is the time to order it. Very similar. Excellent, excellent. It's hard to think about that already, right? I mean, it's October 8th. It's hard to think about Christmas, but if you're looking for a special Christmas gift, like a Rapid River knife, in particular, the Avery signature knife, now is the time to order them. It is knife. Good evening, James. Well, good for you, Jim. Rick, good evening. Scott, just about back from the UP. Bird hunting was slow, too hot. Spent some time shooting long-range 22s. Scott B is Scott Buttrick, who I had on the radio show a few weeks ago. He is a long-range 22 shooting expert. And he happens to look a lot like Ernest Hemingway, which is not a bad thing to do. Okay, before I get to the radio rundown this week, some things on my list. Again, talking about the weather. Isn't it nice that the weather has cooled off? The weather last weekend and leading up to it was absolutely miserable. Who wants it to be 84 degrees in October? I don't, but it's cooled off. And we got some much needed rain a few days ago. That was absolutely outstanding. Now, we could use more, but it was nice to get some rain. Year is going by fast. That W word, I'm not going to say the W word, John. You can say it if you want to, but I'm not going to say it. Sal won a knife very similar to this one at Wednesday Night Live. What he's talking about is this. We all know this sound by now. The sound of your Rapid River knife locking back open. Scott Buttrick, 200 yards, 1-inch group with a 22. Harry, good evening, buddy. How are you? Nice to have you along with us on this edition of Wednesday Night Live. So I got the not the Rapid River. I got the base camp blind set up with the help of my grandson, Trent. James and I went back out there yesterday and hung a couple. They wouldn't hang. We put up a couple of ladder stands. While we were out there, I put a 3/4 inch, or is it just half? No, a 3/4 inch plywood floor in my blind. I'm also going to throw some rugs on top of it to quiet it down. And I took a ratchet strap and I hooked that to a cross piece in the floor, the mesh floor, and put it into a screw-in stake underneath the blind to give it a little bit more solidity and lock it in place even better. So I'm ready to rock. Good evening, Rick. Cold rain will get the salmon in the rivers. Good point. TJ. Oh, no, TJ. Wish I was in the stand right now, as both of his target bucks have just walked by. That is the curse. That is the blessing and the curse of trail cameras. Hello, Larry. Good evening. How are you? And my dad has seen 30 fawns and does in his food plot yesterday. No bucks. They're coming. Andy Weiss of Truck Trolley headed up to Augrey tomorrow for our annual bow hunting trip. Looking forward to the cooler temps. Good luck to you, Andy. Trucktrolley.com, trucktrolley.com. You know I love Truck Trolley. I've been putting mine to use and posting some of the video. Well, right back at you, Harry. It will. It'll help keep my feet warm. Yes, because the elevated platform that you put it up on is just a metal mesh, and then it's a fabric blind. So by putting a plywood floor with some rugs over it, it not only helps keep the noise down, but it helps insulate it. So in the cold months, when I put a heater up there with me, I should be more comfortable. Don't care for the W word, but there is something to be said about hunting that second bow season in the S word. You can keep both of those words, Linda, W and S. Oh, you saw Mr. Angler Quest briefly today. Oh, very nice. Craig, good evening. How are you? Jim says Harbor Freight has neoprene panels that work great for blind floors. Yeah, thank you. Speaking of cell cameras, what's your opinion of them? I know some states banned them. Personally, it wouldn't hurt my feelings. I like them. I like looking at them. I like watching them. I think it's fun. I think it helps you stay connected with the deer herd. Is there a danger that you get too dependent on cameras, especially cell cameras? Absolutely. Do they give hunters an unfair advantage? No, I don't think so. You can get an idea of what's moving and when, but it's still not a guarantee that if you pick a particular stand or blind, a buck is going to walk in front of you that night. I actually am not even thinking about shooting a buck this year. My first goal is to shoot a big doe, get some more venison burger in the fridge, and then if the right buck walks by, I would shoot it. It's not going to be a 1.5-year-old buck, probably not even a 2.5-year-old buck, although there are a couple of them I've seen that would tempt me. And honestly, where we are, I'm doe hunting. I'm absolutely doe hunting. Yeah, no doubt about it. Paul, good evening. Eric, nice to have you along with us on this edition of Wednesday Night Live. We put up the ladder stands. The old man stands are basically the old primal stands, right? They just have been rebranded under the old man name. When they were primal, they were called jaw and truss ladder stands. Now they're called something similar to that, and I'm sorry I can't remember the new terminology yet. But the way you set them up is they literally have a jaw system on them that when you put them up against the tree, this jaw locks into the tree. You lock them in place, and then there's what's called a truss system, which is nothing more than a cable that runs from the top of the ladder through a brace down to the bottom of the ladder. And I'm telling you what, it really locks these things in. Very tight, very solid, very safe. The only elevated platform I'm going to hunt out of these days, other than that base camp, is a ladder stand. And these old man stands are really, really nice. They are safe. They are quiet. If you want to get a discount on Old Man's carnivore blinds, which are an upgraded version of the Wraith that I loved so much. The carnivore is also 270 degrees of visibility, but it has movable blackout curtains. It has an internal light system, which, to be honest with you, doesn't do much for me because I've always got a light with me anyway. But the biggest thing about the carnivore is it does not have a zipper on the door. It uses magnets, so I love that. So you've got the carnivore blind, and you've got the Big Daddy ladder stand, both of which are available at Jay's Sporting Goods in Clare or Gaylord. If you use the promo code Avery30, it's Avery30, you can get $30 off. Coho being caught surf fishing along Whitefish Bay at the creek mouth super early morning spawn fishing. Thank you, Jim. Surf fishing is a riot. I have surf fished in a previous life a lot. and absolutely loved it. There's something about being in the water with the fish that is very intense, very personal. I love surf fishing, so thank you for that. I've never experimented with surf fishing for walleye. I have casted for walleye in the rivers and had a limited amount of luck. I'm not like Jim, who's on here right now, who really he's an expert at it. Uncle Johnny, good. Where are you, Johnny? Johnny, there's Uncle Johnny right there. Uncle Johnny, I was telling Johnny Bowler that we're going to be coming up with him a bear hunting next year, hopefully, and he can't wait. He's already excited about it. Linda, so impressed with the G5 team. I got a little fly in here. Contacted their customer support with questions about broadheads. They responded so fast with a very informative answer. Support our Michigan sports companies. Could not agree more, Linda. I am a huge fan of G5. I'm also a huge fan of this company right here, Rec Broadheads, also a Michigan-based family-owned company. This is a Rec expandable. This is one of their new expandables. What I really, really like about this, and I'm not going to mess around with it because I'll cut my fingers on camera, but you see these blades right here? When they deploy, obviously they deploy outward. With this new design, when you want to put the blades back, you just grab them, slide them up the ferrule, and lock them into place. Very, very nice. So I love Rec broadheads. I love G5 broadheads. I don't think you can go wrong with either one. Also, I love me a lighted knock. I think a lighted knock is the way to go. I can't see a downside to using a lighted knock. The key is finding the right lighted knock. Some of them don't work worth a darn. Some of them are very reliable. These happen to be the 10-point lighted knock because I'm putting them in a 10-point arrow. Now, the problem with this is getting this knock turned off. Until I get them broken in, because these are brand new knocks, until I get them broken in, you just about need a pair of pliers to grab onto this thing and pull it back and turn the knock off. And if you don't do that and you reach for your quiver and you see you've got a lighted knock that's turned on, it's going to wear out on you. So as soon as I get done here now, I will go into my storage room over there on my workbench and I'll grab a pair of pliers and I will turn this lighted knock off. But I'm with you, Linda. I like Michigan-based family-owned companies. You can't go wrong with G5 or Rec. They're both made in Michigan. Good companies. This one looks like this has not been put through an animal. Let me respond to my son, James, real quick. James is asking about the 41 Great Lakes cartridge, straight-walled cartridge. He's going to build one of those. And I happen to have John Up of River Raisin Ballistics on the radio show this week talking about the 41 Great Lakes. And he's going to talk to my son, James, help him get set up. He wants to build a gun. Jim, good evening, buddy. How are you? Eric says, surf fishing is awesome. I did it when I was a teenager. I love surf fishing. You're in Nevada watching you. Julie, what are you doing in Nevada? Are you gambling? Are you losing money? Are you winning money? Joe, how are you, buddy? I just left our Wednesday night service with Pastor Seth Kaiser. Have you met him yet, Joe? Have you met Seth? I feel like you guys have, but I don't know how you would. Anyway, I would listen. You were my guy, but it wasn't meant to be. But, I'm sure it worked out better for you. And, it worked out great for us because Pastor Kaiser is a great guy as well. Brent, I love my G5 Montex. Listen, if you're going to shoot a fixed blade head, it's hard to beat a G5 Montec. I took a lot of animals, deer and a few, mostly bears, turkeys, and I think a deer with a Montec. You cannot beat a Montec. Cut on contact, they are very, very great. Great. Okay, the tip looks durable. Yeah, this is a chisel point tip. Now, I'm shooting this out of a crossbow. So, whatever it hits, it's going to hit hard. I do like a cut on contact head for traditional archery. Like when I was shooting my recurve, cut on contact was the way to go. John says, that's why I carry a paper clip in my bow case. John, tell me what, and I'm not being a jerk here, I'm asking a legitimate question. What will a paper clip do in this case to help me turn this knock off? What's it going to do? Huh. Ross, I still run and will always shoot my Rage broadheads. I feel comfortable using them. Rage is a great broadhead. They're a big name. I've heard some complaints about Rage. I have personally never shot Rage because I feel Rage is much like Yeti. It is one of those companies that makes a good product, but they are overhyped. And I think, not you, Ross, because I know you do a lot of research, but for example, the guys at Jay's. People will walk into Jay's. They say, I want a new bow. And the people at Jay's will say, well, what are you looking for? Do you want to go shoot some? No, I want a Matthews, or I want whatever it is, big name, because that's what has been promoted and hyped. And that's what the TV hunting shows use. So they come in asking for a Matthews. Not you, Ross, but I think some people, a significant number of people, shoot Rage because it has been promoted so heavily. I know an outfitter in Ohio that will not allow his customers to use a Rage, which I find interesting because I think if you are going on a paid hunt and you are paying to hunt, you should be able to use whatever gear, whatever broadhead you want. Ray, good evening. How are you? Okay, something my dad and I figured out. The lighted nocks we have use a tiny hole that we push up the button with a paper clip. Not sure if that's the way to do it, but it's something we figured out. I don't think there's a button on this, John. So I think the only way to turn this one off is to pull it out. No, John, I think I know what you mean because which lighted nocks are those? Because I've used 3 different kinds. I've used Luminox, I've used these, and I've used one by a smaller company that I really, really liked. And I think those had a button that I could reset. Exactly, Ross. If you are comfortable with your equipment, keep using it. And broadheads are such a personal and intimate decision because it is the broadhead, right? Of everything I use, the crossbow, the arrow, the lighted nock, the broadhead, what is it that does the job? What is it that takes the animal? It's that broadhead or whatever broadhead you choose to use. Again, I am going to use a Michigan-made product, so it's going to be a Rec or a G5. These happen to be the Recs. But beyond that, it's a very, very personal decision. The new mechanicals have so much kinetic energy on launch. A lot of mechanicals, that was my issue with Rage. They were opening early, Rick. Is that it? Luminox is what you have, John. Luminox is a great company. I got a mental block and can't think of the name, but Luminox are good guys. Hey, Jerry. 10-point lighted nocks over G5 dead meat broadheads works wonderfully for me with a buck I shot last year. It looked like a laser. Okay, Jerry. So 10-point lighted nocks. This is a 10-point lighted nock. Is there a way to turn this off that you know of other than to grab onto it and pull it out? And again, these are brand new. I just got them at Jay's like a week and a half ago. And I don't have the strength to pull it out without using a pair of pliers. As I use these, break them in, loosen them up a little bit, I will be able to pull them with my fingers and turn them off. If you have not shot a lighted nock, I would strongly encourage you to give them a try. There's nothing like being able to see where that arrow's going. For one thing, if you're practicing with it, it'll show you your arrow flight. If you get a lighted nock doing this, your arrow's not flying well. But in a hunting situation, it will help you verify where you think you hit the animal, because in your mind you're saying, okay, here's where I hit it. But when you see a lighted knock, it's like, okay, this is verification. And if you have a camera with you, or if you're using a camera on your bow or something, you can go back and look at the video and say, yes, this is proof. This is where I hit it. Early deployment. Okay. No problem, Rick. Is what you're doing. Pull them loose. Yeah. But I mean, they work great. The ones I was running were these green ones right here. They would light up green. And I don't know if you can tell, but this, because I've washed these off, this has been put through an animal, I think a turkey. And this arrow has been put through an animal, a bear. I think this has been put through 2 bears. One of them I recovered, one of them I didn't. But, and by the way, is this called a bolt or is this called an arrow? Okay. This is a shaft that I shoot with my crossbow. Is it called a bolt or is it called an arrow? What do you think? Give me your comments on what you think it's called. Okay, in the meantime, while I'm waiting on those, a couple of things. The DNR budget. The DNR budget was included in the state budget. There was not a license fee increase included in that, and it was not really expected that it would be. But there are a couple of bills out there right now that could call for future funding mechanisms. One being House Bill 5093, which is a fisheries only bill, and the other one from Senators Cherry and Bumstead, that is an overall refunding of the DNR. Those are probably going to get mixed together and passed in some way. I'll talk more about that in a minute. Okay, so again, the question is, I shoot this out of my crossbow. Is this an arrow or is this a bolt? Rick says it's a bolt. Ed says it's a bolt. Ross said it's an arrow. Otto says it's a bolt. Pastor Stoffer says it's a bolt. A bolt. Nice to have you with us, Pastor. How you feeling? Brent says it's a bolt. Eric says it's an arrow. Jim says it's a bolt. Okay. Now, most people, even in the industry, will call this a bolt. And 99% of the time, when you see an advertisement or read an article or hear anybody talking about this, they're going to call this a bolt. This is not a bolt. This is an arrow. Why is it an arrow? Because it has fletching on it. A true bolt is about half this distance, and it has no feathers, no fletching, no veins. That's a true bolt. This, because it has veins, because it has fletching or arrows, or veins or fletching, is called an arrow. I don't care that you shoot it out of a crossbow. I don't care that it's shorter than a standard length arrow. But technically, this is an arrow. It's not a bolt. But you'll hear people say bolt all the time. But just know that for real, this is not a bolt. It's an arrow because it has fletching on it. A true bolt, going back to medieval times, is very short and has no fletching. See? And again, common knowledge says it's a bolt. If you shoot it out of a crossbow, it's commonly called a bolt. It is commonly called a bolt. Technically, it's not. It's an arrow. I agree with you, Jay. I was always told a bolt for a crossbow and an arrow for a regular bow. Larry, hold the lighted knock securely with your thumb and forefinger. Use an arrow puller for a better grip. Bednar perfect puller. Yep. And what you do however you do it is grab this knock and you pull it out. Again, this one is brand new and it's very tight and I can't pull it out with my fingers. Excellent, Pastor. Glad to hear. See? Larry says you learn something every day. John says you learn something new every day. Rick says, I thought it went by length and wall thickness. And you can probably find something online that says that, Rick. But the way I learned this was from a very, very knowledgeable guy who was in the archery industry for 50 years. And they sold arrows, and they sold bolts, and they sold broadheads, and they sold string trackers. So you know what company I'm talking about. And Lenny's the one who told me about the true definition of a bolt. Now, listen, nobody's going to say you're wrong. If you call this a bolt, right? Nobody's going to say, oh, you're wrong. But I'm just telling you, technically, it's not a bolt. Take it for what it's worth, you know? It's like, I don't have a gun on me, but it's like the old clip versus a magazine. A lot of people will call them a clip. Technically, they're not. I don't even have one within reach right now. It's called a magazine. But if you talk about the clip for a gun, people know what you're talking about. You're welcome. Linda, are you sure about that? Just looked it up. Fletching, most bolts use. I am absolutely sure about it, Linda. And that's what I said. You can look it up and you can find definitions like that. But the true definition of a bolt is it's much shorter and it does not have any fletching. So I am sure about that. But I'm also sure that you can find modern day definitions that have been, co-opted and modified as crossbows have become more popular, because it makes sense. If you refer to the shaft that you shoot out of a compound or traditional archery as an arrow, and the shaft you shoot out of a crossbow as a bolt, it's just easy for people to understand. Basically, Larry, if I remember right, yes. Hello, Dean. Yes, Game Tracker, the old Game Tracker company. Did anybody on here ever shot one of the old string trackers? Weren't those something else? They were in a black plastic canister that you screwed into your stabilizer or the stabilizer hole, and had a lightweight string, which was basically dental floss. And there was a loop behind your broadhead, and you tied that string / dental floss to the loop. And when you shot, it pulled the string out of the canister, and in theory, you followed the string to your animal. Anybody remember those? Anybody use them? Thank you, Ross. Thank you. I'm so glad to hear that. One thing new and 5 forgotten. I'm with you. I hear you, Scott. Mike, good evening, buddy. How are you? They are wrong. Brent, I agree with you completely. Certain things in the world bother me. One is a clip versus a magazine. And I was talking to Lenny Resmer, Lenny Resmer. It drives me crazy. I listen to a lot of audio books, and there are a lot of guns involved in those because I listen to a lot of mysteries and thrillers and such. And immediately I cringe when I hear them talk about the clip. They loaded the clip. And if I'm talking face to face with somebody, I'll be honest with you. If I'm talking face to face with somebody and they talk about putting the clip in their gun, I immediately I discredit them, and I try not to show it on my face, because there are some guns that have clips, but most of you here, not Scott, but most of you here don't have a gun that has a clip. You have a gun that has a magazine. So the clip versus magazine thing drives me crazy. The horn versus antler thing drives me crazy. The bolt versus arrow thing does not drive me crazy, but I find it interesting. And the other thing that drives me crazy, and I hear this all the time, and I've given up trying to fight it. I hear people talk about filming their hunt. They're not filming their hunt. I used to be, years ago, when I was being a smartass, people would say, "Oh, I filmed my hunt." I'm like, "Oh, what'd you use? 8mm, 16? What'd you use? Super 8? What film did you use?" And they look at me like, "What?" Well, you said you filmed your hunt. What film did you use? You used a film camera, right? So that one drives me crazy too. But I've since given up on that one. Mike, good evening, buddy. Congrats on your grandson's buck. So cool. And I love seeing kids sitting over deer. Appreciate that, Rick. Bernie said he shot a string tracker for a long time. Mike said he did, and it stopped his first shot, my shot from hitting a deer. Um, Let me tell you a quick story. I used to shoot them because I used to work with game trackers, so I wanted to use their products. The trick with a game tracker was you pulled the first several yards of string out of the can to get it loosened up. The biggest buck I ever shot in Michigan, and this, I was sitting in a ground blind. I actually dug a pit in a stand of pines. I dug a pit in the sand and I mounded the sand up in front of me. And this is back when you can hunt with bait. This was in a stand of pines. I had bait in front of me. I'm sitting at ground level with a not a recurve, with a compound. And the biggest buck I have ever seen in Michigan. This is not an exaggeration because I was hunting in a special circumstance inside a city limit that hadn't been hunted much up until this point. So there were still some big bucks in there. The biggest buck that I have ever had in front of me in Michigan, maybe ever, walked in front of me and started eating corn at the bait in front of me. I had an old Darton, probably an SL50, with a string tracker. I shot the animal. I did not get good penetration. The animal takes off. My string's going zee, 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 zee. Now I'm hoping and praying that it stops at any time because it means the animal went down. Zee, 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 stopped. And I thought, oh my God, I got him. He's a true trophy buck. Turns out what happened is the animal went across the road, got it tied around a tree, and the string broke. I never did recover that animal. It was not the fault of the string tracker, but the biggest buck I ever shot, I didn't recover, and I had a string tracker on him. Eric, we used them for tracking bears at night, get back out of the woods. Good idea. Mike said he used them, had some moments. String all over the woods. That's a good point, Jeff. Where I was hunting there in the city, they actually required the archers to use a string tracker, and they were baited stands. And yes, it didn't decompose because it was dental floss, and a lot of string got left in the woods before GPS. Larry, heard of them, never heard of anybody using them. That was before your time, Larry. Horns versus antlers bothers me too. Scott, yes. Satellite broadheads. Oh my gosh, Jim, you're going back a ways. Satellite, and you know what? I was probably shooting a satellite broadhead back then. Mike says he remembers him. Linda, oh my gosh, you are the smartest person. Linda says, I think a clip is what you use to put in the hole to push the button and turn your lighted knock off. I think you're exactly right. Ed says, when I was working there, part of my job was to shoot random spools to check for drag. So, Ed, you knew Lenny Resmer. Joe, I had some lighted knocks for a bow as a kid. I don't remember the brand. One hard tap on the ground to turn them on, another to turn them off. They were also helpful for marking the last blood. Pretty hard to miss the last spot. I've never used a lighted knock like that, Joe. That would be great though. Turn them on, boom, and turn them off. These do not work this way, so I can't do that with those. But I like that concept. Always shot them once before hunting. Absolutely. You're more than welcome, Mike. Are string trackers considered antique? Boy, if they're not antique, they're pretty darn close to it. M60 Darton. We have, Jim. You know, I mean, I've lost one deer that I can think of and two bears, and I can remember both of them, and they both break my heart. So, yes, it's going to happen. Evening, Jerry. How are you? Hey, Jim, nice to have you along with us. Satellite broadheads. My gosh, I remember those. Good deal, Ross. Ooh. Well, that's quite an incision there, Ross. But you're healing well. Thank you. Okay, let me talk about who's on the show this week. Oh my gosh, this one went fast. Craig, I used satellite broadheads, game tracker string, his first overdraw. I remember overdraws. Remember the stuff we used to play around with years ago in archery to try to get performance, to try to get better performance that even when we had them tweaked, it was nothing like we have today. All right, the radio show rundown for this week. My first guest is Ed Blissick of the Great Lakes Salmon Initiative. They are the ones who have pushed forward House Bill 5093. House Bill 5093 would, boy, you were there. Lenny Resmer, Dave Polson, Bob Ransom. Yes. House Bill 5093 would raise the price of a basic fishing license by $2 and also allow you to pay an additional $5 for a Great Lakes trolling stamp / license. That would allow you to run an unlimited number of rods while trolling the Great Lakes. There is also a bill in the Senate being pushed by two senators. Now, 5093 is fisheries only. There's also a bill in the Senate that would call for license fees for hunting and fishing. My next guest is Troy Harrison. Troy is the guy who shot that video of that beautiful, majestic elk bugling at the side of the river and then cross in front of them as they were sitting there in a canoe while trout fishing. That video went viral. It's had between Facebook and others like 1 million views. I don't think I've ever posted anything that had the view. I think it's the most popular video I have ever posted on anything. You want a real laugh? Go to my Facebook page, scroll down the page till you find the video of that elk and look at the comments, okay? I'm going to make a statement here, and I'm not talking about you, my friends. You, my friends who are here on a regular basis, you're smart. You get it. People on Facebook in general, not you, people on Facebook in general are dumb as hell. They're stupid. Go look at the comments about that elk video. Number one, a lot of people thought it was a moose. A lot of people thought it was an elk in the UP, even though the title clearly said a northern Michigan river. It didn't say a UP river. It said a northern Michigan river. And then the number of people who said, I'm so glad you didn't kill that moose. Not me, but the people in the canoe. They were clearly fishing. The guy had a fishing rod in his hand. Yes, as the bull elk walked in front of him, because he's a bow hunter, he did this. He went like this with his arms, right? Just his arms. No bow in his hands to show that the bull was definitely in elk range. Go look at the comments. And then at the end of the hour, Joe Pressgrove talks about the Hunters Feeding Michigan program, how you can donate any extra venison you have this year. In the second hour, John Upp of River Raisin Ballistics talks about the 41 Great Lakes cartridge. Then Callie Rush from the DNR on waterfowl hunting in Michigan. The Ask Avery segment this week is talking about license fee increases and will we get some and when will it happen. Justin Tomei of MUCC weighs in on that. And in the third hour, I'm talking with a buddy of mine. His name is Don Barnard. He talks about a recent Alberta moose hunt that he was on. I love Alberta. And then he talks about fall muskie fishing. And we wrap it all up with wild game chef extraordinaire Dixie Dave Miner. That's the rundown for the show this week. Okay. Real quick comments before we wrap it up here, because it is time to do that. 145 grain Fredbear broadheads with the bleeder. Pendulum sights. 90 pounds. I can't imagine pulling a 90-pound bow. String tracker. It was a wonderful, beautiful video, wasn't it, Mike? Yeah, how do you pull 90 pounds? It was a great video. Golden Eagle. The moose with a trombone. Oh, I know it. Your Mike, not many smart in the comments. There were a lot of dumb comments. A lot of dumb comments. And, you know, it was actually heartbreaking to see how uneducated many people are when it comes to our Michigan wildlife. Thinking an elk was a moose. Thinking it was from the UP. It kind of broke my heart. And then I'm glad you didn't kill it. That's what we're dealing with. A lot of the population in Michigan outside of our group doesn't know. That's why it's up to us to help educate them. Try not to laugh at them. Try not to be rude to them. But when they're rude to us, it's hard not to. My name is Mike Avery. This is Wednesday Night Live. My website, MikeAveryOutdoors.com. My email address is mike@MikeAveryOutdoors.com. Thanks for joining me, my friends, on this edition of Wednesday Night Live.